Have you ever watched old Vietnam War footage and wondered how the people hanging out of helicopters didn't just fall out? Because sometimes they did. But not because they were careless and not because they forgot to strap in. When American helicopters first arrived in Vietnam, they weren't built for combat. The UH-1 Huey, which would become the most iconic aircraft of the war, started as a simple transport vehicle. The standard crew was a pilot, a co-pilot, and a crew chief. Their job was simple on paper: fly troops in, drop them off, and leave. But the door gunner position didn't even exist yet. The problem was that the battlefield didn't care about the plan. These Bell Iroquois helicopters weren't armoured, they weren't armed, and they were flying low and slow into active combat zones. Enemy fire brought them down at an alarming rate. By the end of the war, nearly half of all UH-1 Hueys deployed in Vietnam had been damaged or destroyed. So crews started improvising. The earliest solution was crude, but effective enough to try. Remove the doors. Strap a crew chief into the opening with an M60 machine gun mounted on bungee cords, what crews called the Free 60. At least now the helicopter could shoot back. The danger was obvious, but it was still safer than being completely defenseless. To cover both sides of the aircraft, a second gunner position was added. This became known as the door gunner, sometimes called the shotgun rider. Units like the 1st Cavalry Division pioneered these tactics during the early years of the conflict. The door gunner's job wasn't just firing into the jungle. He watched the skids, checked rotor clearance, helped load cargo, carried wounded, and provided suppression when everything went wrong at once. And it often did. Firing from a moving UH-1 is nothing like firing from the ground. The aircraft is shifting, banking, and climbing, while the target below is also moving. Door gunners had to aim ahead of where they wanted to hit, constantly adjusting for speed and angle. It took training, coordination, and a lot of experience to do it even halfway well. Most days were uneventful. Crews used to say that 90% of the time was boredom. Hours of flying over jungle, scanning tree lines, waiting. But the other 10% erased all of that. When things went bad, they happened fast. By 1968, during the Tet Offensive, the intensity reached its peak. Before we even talk about combat, imagine this. You're sitting in an open doorway of a Huey, secured only by a harness, flying close to 100 miles per hour, sometimes just meters above the trees. There's no wall beside you, just air. Yes, people fell out, and yes, it was usually fatal, but those incidents were rare. More often, helicopters went down because of enemy fire, mechanical failures, or what official reports often labelled as human error. That phrase covered a lot. Door gunners usually wore a simple lap belt or a monkey harness. The harness was clipped to the floor or wall and allowed movement so they could lean out and fire. It wasn't designed to stop a fall. It was designed to keep them attached long enough for someone to pull them back in. If the helicopter took a hard, evasive turn or was hit mid-maneuver, the force could throw a gunner outward, snapping the harness tight and leaving him hanging outside the aircraft. The position was widely considered the most dangerous on the helicopter. There's a popular claim that a door gunner's life expectancy was 5 minutes. That number isn't reliable, but the belief behind it was real. Gunners were exposed, visible, and high-priority targets. Some missions were worse than others. Medical evacuations, known as Dustoffs, were among the most dangerous flights. The 57th Medical Detachment, the original Dustoff unit, pioneered these life-saving missions. Crews had to land in active firefights, load wounded soldiers, and take off again under fire. Early in the war, Medevac helicopters flew unarmed, relying on Red Cross markings for protection. That protection didn't last. Major Charles Kelly, known as Combat Kelly, established the Dustoff motto and mission before being killed in action in 1964. His legacy lived on through pilots like Patrick Henry Brady, who earned the Medal of Honor flying Dustoff missions and personally evacuated over 5,000 wounded soldiers. Dustoffs began flying with door gunners. These gunners didn't just provide cover, they helped carry the wounded. Some jumped out under fire to drag injured soldiers back to the aircraft. When there were too many casualties, they had to help decide who could wait and who couldn't. That decision often meant life or death. Over 900,000 casualties were evacuated by helicopter during the war, but Dustoff crews themselves suffered a 33% casualty rate. Protection was limited. Flak jackets were issued, but they were meant to stop shrapnel, not rifle rounds. Many gunners didn't wear them. They were heavy, hot, and restricted movement. Ceramic chest plates existed too, known as chicken plates, but many left those behind as well. By the late 1960s, the military began deploying UH-1 Cobra gunships to escort the transport Hueys, but door gunners remained essential on Medevac and transport missions. In the end, the only real protection was speed and firepower. Get in, do the job, get out. So did door gunners ever fall out of helicopters? Yes, but far more often they stayed in place while the world exploded around them. If you think this part of history deserves careful treatment instead of recycled myths, let me know what topic you'd like to see next. And if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing.